Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our entitled people. In today's episode, my neighbor called the cops because we decided to clean our apartment. Karen wants us to keep neighbors off her property and ours. Make me feel bad for using food stamps, have a shitty day. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My neighbor called the cops because we decided to clean our apartment. I am so glad that I found this sub because I'm dying to tell this story. So, my BF and I moved into an apartment in August. It's older, so the floors are super creaky. According to our lease, we're obligated to cover 90% of any room with carpet, except bathroom and kitchen, to help with noise. It turned out our apartment was previously managed as a dorm by the local college, so the floors already have a layer of super thin shitty carpet. We also laid down more rugs to help with noise cancellation. Our downstairs neighbor moves in about a month later, and within a month of that, starts banging on her ceiling when we get too rowdy. The first couple times, it happened super late in the living room. Our apartments have the same plan. We were moving around after midnight the first time. Later she came to talk to us and asked us to keep it down at night. Sure, fair enough. The next time was when we walked it from the airport at 10 p.m. She came up, banged on the door, and talked over my explanation. I told her I was sorry and asked when she was hearing the noise, assuming it was just the cat running around at night. No, she tells me that she knows it's not the cat, she knows it's us, and she doesn't live alone. Okay, weird, but whatever. We started going to bed earlier as we settled into the apartment and our jobs, but the banging only continued. For months, she would hit her ceiling / our floor whenever we walked around. Bed at 10? Bang. Wake up at 5:30 for work? Bang. Sitting on the couch but decide you want snacks? Bang. Around Christmas, she comes up to our door again. My BF answered, and this time I recorded, and I'm so glad I did. This woman came up and looked my boyfriend in the eye and said, "You have to stop following me." What? I know it's not the cat or the dog or your GF, because I know your footsteps. I don't know how you figured it out, but you figured out how to listen to where I am, and you're following me around my apartment, and I'm sick of it. My BF calmly responded that she sounds crazy and that we don't care about her. She again reminded us that she doesn't live alone. Her BF is a small Latino man in his 60s who is very polite and has never said a word to us. Cool, she's insane, whatever. The banging continued with us stomping every time we heard it. She didn't like that, but it made it more fun. We'd already explained the situation to the landlord and the super, and they were on our side. Our town was the first in the US to be locked down under quarantine, so for the first few days, the banging gradually increased until one day this woman lost her mind. I'll admit that we're early risers on the weekends. On this particular Sunday, we ended up waking up super early, but not doing much for the first few hours. We drank some coffee and sat on the couch until almost 11. At that point, we decided to get up and clean the apartment. Homegirl went apes hit. She had to be running from one end of her apartment to the other. She's banging her ceiling so hard that we're convinced she's damaging it. At one point, I hear what sounds like muffled yelling after she followed me into the bedroom. We had plans that day, so we ignored her, finished cleaning, and started to leave. She must have been waiting for us to leave, because for the first time ever, she walked out of her apartment right as we go to her landing. I was holding the dog while waiting for my BF come down as she starts to descend the stairs. Of course, she decides to turn around and say something. Crazy, tell your boyfriend to cut it out. Me, cut what out? Walking? You're hitting the ceiling because of me and the dog moving, not him. CB continues to spew some other dumb shit as my boyfriend gets down to me. She proceeded to stay exactly 3 steps ahead of him, slowing us all the way down the stairs. She tried to block us going out the door at the bottom, but backed off when he just didn't stop moving. She's continuing to yell at him all the way to the parking lot. Of myself and my boyfriend, he's typically the hothead while I'm the calm one. Amazingly, he kept his calm the whole time, calling her only a crazy lady and ignoring her as he walked past her and her car to the dumpster. As I passed her car, she decided to continue talking at me, and I was just pissed not to engage. CB, I'm serious, it's done. Me, okay, what do you want us to do, Crawl? I already told you we have a 60-pound dog, and we're all just walking around. CB, talking while I talked, so I don't hear everything, and you need to remember that I don't live alone. Me, okay, neither do I. You see my boyfriend right there, so what's your point? By the way, that's the third or fourth time you've said that, and that could be taken as a threat. CB, you think it's a threat? Fine, it is. Me, cool, I'm calling the cops. CB, okay, me too. We both call the cops and they pull up. They talk to her first and then come talk to us. I don't know what she told them, but when they came to talk to us, I told them everything she'd said and done for the past 6 months. The officer explained that it was a civil matter that would have to dealt with by the landlord, but assured us that they explained to her that it is perfectly acceptable to walk around your apartment at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. They also told her not to knock on our door ever again and that she's not allowed to bang on our floor over footsteps at any point. For a couple nights she got back at us by banging at 1:30 a.m. to wake us up. We had already reached out to our landlord again, and this time, he told us he'd see what her problem is. That's still not the last of his troubles with her though. We ended up talking to the people that live below her and telling them about the banging. It turns out, they've heard it this whole time and had no idea what it was. Now that they know, they've also reported her to the landlord. The banging has stopped, we don't expect her lease to be renewed, and we may end up in a better apartment in the next couple months. Edit, a few comments have tried to paint my neighbor as an innocent in this. I want to clarify that she made direct threats to me when I apologized and told her we'd take care of it. That was the first time she met me, and all I did was apologize and say we'd fix it. She was never trying to be friendly and work it out. We have never engaged her, we have never provoked her. Man. I lived under a woman and her 9-year-old, and it was a nightmare. Drove me insane, honestly, but I left a note with my number. We texted. She explained her situation as a single mom with a kid. I understood. It continued, but I just dealt with it. Sometimes you just gotta grin and bear it. Apartments suck. That's what I thought would happen. We explained 3 to 4 times that we were just walking, and she just refused to believe that. Once it got to the point that we were in bed by 10 and she was still banging, I gave up on trying to be quiet anymore. You wanted to save money, so you moved into an old apartment. If you don't like the noise, wear earplugs. I don't know what else I could possibly do. My grandmother had a neighbor like that. Batshot crazy lady would stomp up the stairs and bang on door at 3 a.m. to complain about the noise. My grandmother would wake up and tell her that it wasn't her every single time. Eventually, she called the police. My grandmother showed her and the annoyed cop that showed up at her door camera footage of my grandmother frail senior cat getting out his zoom eyes before bed. Her cat is probably 15 pounds soaking wet and his claws were removed before she adopted him. Hardly a noise to call the police over. My downstairs neighbor is like this. The first time we moved in our flat, she said she can hear us using the microwave, and the microwave wasn't even unpacked. Then she kept sending us letters saying she can hear us flushing the loo and the TV. We talked to our landlord and he said she used to do the same thing to the previous tenants, and she was going to the letting agency every week to complain about noise. The flat has indeed very thin floors, and unfortunately I am quite heavy-footed, but to complain that she can hear us flushing the loo, that's another story. Safe to say that she stopped harassing us after I sent her a very lengthy letter back asking her to stop bullying us or I will take measures. Also, one time she sent her mom to my door on a Sunday at 4 in the afternoon, I was having a nap, to complain that she can hear somebody banging on the floor. It was my partner playing a racing game and he was pressing the brake on his racing gear. Karen wants us to keep neighbors off her property and ours. So we've just got a new Karen next door this week, as we found out at about 7 a.m. this morning when she came storming up our driveway with the fury of 1,000 middle-class white women. In our neighborhood, most of the properties are subdivided and Karen has moved into the house at the bottom of the property next to ours, and she has so complaints for our manager, my mom. The tenants at the house at the bottom of the driveway have backed their car onto her property on one occasion while getting the car out. Okay, so tell them. The tradesman restoring the shed behind the bottom house also backed onto her property. Again, we don't have control over where he drives. We can tell him if we see him, but so can you, Karen. The neighbors on the other side of her property from us have also backed onto her property. Lady, we don't even know them. Why are you complaining to us? Additionally, she has informed us that our driveway extends 1 m onto her property and that a tree that is in the middle of our yard and also on her property and she is having it removed, and that the driveway has to be ripped up. When she was presented with the land surveys from 1993, she started informing us that the property lines changed when the previous owner sold the house to us. My great-grandmother purchased the land we are on in 1913. It was the first lot of land sold in the suburb. Our family have lived here continuously for 110 years. The property has never been sold. The lines of the property have never changed. If you are going to lie, Karen, learn who you are lying to first. Oh man. What did she say when you told her about the family history on the home and that no property lines were changed? Tell her to go get a survey at her expense if she wants to prove it. She backed off a bit after that, but honestly I don't trust her to stick with it. She mostly just got flustered that she had been called out. Oh Lord. I hate to tell you, but it's just going to get worse. Install cameras so when she does something bats hit you'll have evidence. I'm so sorry. Karen neighbors are the worst. Already been looking at getting a camera set up to protect my bike, and it won't be much struggle to get the tree and driveway in the same frame. If you have a camera lying around, I'd point it at that tree. Good chance she tries to get it taken down regardless. Then you can do some tree law. The subreddit I didn't know I needed, and now love dearly. Make it clear she is not allowed to remove that tree in writing so it will be even easier to show her intent in court. The tree is actually a variety of endangered ironbark, so even to prune some branches requires a lot of permits and environmental agency approval. If she actually pulls something and we get footage of it, she is out a minimum of $120,000. Oh, she's going to be a forever problem. Yikes. I sincerely wish you the best of luck. With the fury of 1,000 middle-class white women. Get a lawyer to send her a letter. That should shut her up and clarify things. Property disputes are the #1 real estate issue. She is trying to intimidate you into giving up some land. Don't let her get away with it. Make me feel bad for using food stamps. Have a shitty day. So I was grocery shopping this morning. We were out of food at home. Well, I got my stuff that I came for, and was in line. Everything was fine until Karen showed up behind me. She saw my cart was full of groceries. She proceeded to make a look like. So I knew it was going to take me a bit to unload my cart onto the lane. Anywho, I was in the process of checking out and pulled my food stamp card out. I was mid-swipe when Karen had the audacity to say, "You should be ashamed of yourself for using food stamps. My money goes towards people like you who leech of the government. You are all a bunch of lazy people. If you weren't lazy, maybe you wouldn't need assistance." I was like grimacing face, unamused face, pouting face, exploding head. I turned around and said, you should be ashamed of yourself for even suggesting that. You don't know my life. As for how to read the room, you failed in that area. How I live my life is none of your business. She proceeded to say a lot of other stuff and I just left. On my way out, I heard the cashier say her card was declined and she needed another form of payment. I smiled and didn't feel bad at all. I was in the middle of loading my car up when the Karen yet again approached me. This time she was loading groceries into her car. Should be noted she was on the phone yelling into it, saying something like, "The man who used food stamps should be ashamed," and my card declined because it was his fault. I looked at her like, no. It wasn't my fault. She saw me, I saw her. I ignored her. She then looked at my car, it's a 2007 Honda CR-V, and said, "You don't have $4 groceries but you have a nice car. That doesn't make sense." I looked at her car, which was a nice Cadillac, and said, "Well, I take good care of my car, that's why it looks nice." Also, I continued from where I left off in the store by basically saying, "You had no right to say the things you did towards me just because you didn't like my card was full and I was using stamps to pay. So take your rude ass assumptions and shove them somewhere else. Good day, ma'am." I slammed my door and left. Didn't feel bad at all. You Americans are still too polite. Good day, ma'am? Really? I would have said, "You ignorant nosy." I don't know why people can't go through life just minding their own business. Don't they realize it makes life so much easier? I am sorry you had to deal with a Karen. Unfortunately, supermarkets are their habitat. Yes, sadly, plus it was around 10:30 a.m. and by the time I got done with the actual shopping and checking out it was around 11:45. I had a lady try to do this to my friend, who had 3 kids and a husband who was currently deployed, over a decade ago. I pulled $10 out of my wallet and tried to hand it to her mid-tirade. She stopped and asked what I was doing, and I told her that her taxes, at the time, now I think it's around $40 a year, paid about $10 towards things like food stamps, and if she was that hard up that she needed to berate a military wife for her need to use food stamps, I would cover her portion. She humped and moved to the next line. She probably saw the murder in my eyes, but at least she shut up. Wow. Yeah, well, shame on her for berating a military spouse. What an insufferable human being. As if things weren't bad enough for normal folks, no need to shame someone just for making ends meet and feeding his family any way they can. You have a very expensive looking car, maybe you should look into your budget so next time your card isn't declined buying groceries. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.